Hey, everybody. Yes, we are back and we are
back.
live. We're back. Are you on?
I'm on.
You're on.
Yep.
Yeah, we're back and we're live. We are actually broadcasting live, streaming live from our still old studios. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, our new studios. And welcome to another edition of Uniquely Lutheran after a number of taped but new shows. We made sure.
Can you feel the energy, Al? I mean, when you're doing it live, there's a lot more.
Well,
To me, there is.
There's a better dynamic of it, that's for sure. And editing process is much easier when you do it tape, because if you screw up, you can always knock that out. But you get to see our live screw ups. You get to see everything. I'm Al Ernst. This is Pastor Jeff Grost, New Life Lutheran Church in Sarasota, Florida. And as we continue our Tuesday talk show, Uniquely Lutheran. And how are you doing, buddy? It's been a while.
I didn't survive 2 hurricanes. It's been nice here in Florida, but not so much in Mexico and Maine. And you were in 2 places where you faced the storm. How are you doing?
Well, actually, yeah, 2 places, 3 hurricanes. Yeah. No,
oh, wow.
I'm fine. I did a quick little show in Cancun, Mexico at a resort where we took a direct hit from Hurricane Grace, which is an ironic name for a hurricane.
Sure is.
Hurricane Grace, Category 2 hurricane. In Cancun, fielded that beautifully because the people there were completely prepared and the buildings and structures are built to withstand all of that. I mean, that was kind of almost, I won't say a nothing burger because they gave us a major lockdown and everything like that, but within 24 hours of the whole thing happening, the resort was clean, cleared, power restored. I mean, I would ask the people of Louisiana to send, if we're going to open up immigration, bring in the folks from Mexico, because they seem to know.
They cleaned it up. How long did it take to clean up?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, I literally looked outside. Every villa had a total metal, like accordion hurricane shutter, of which I thought was very ironic. They were like the Apple iPhone people. They with Apple, you can only have special tools. They've designed everything so that you can't manually do it. Well, I guess they were worried about their guests trying to open the hurricane shutters during the hurricane. So they had a special tool that locked each room's hurricane shutter, so you were literally almost in prison. Not in prison, but you were locked in. And I thought that was funny because once it was over with, I mean, you couldn't even move the shutter a little bit to try to see outside. You had to kind of go out of your room once it was done. But when I went out of my room, it looked like, those of you that are tuning in from this area, and by the way, hello everyone in Abu Dhabi, still haven't forgotten you guys. They looked at it like it did after Hurricane Irma. I mean, literally a couple of days, if you remember, folks, the streets were completely covered in tree branches, power lines, roof tiles, and we only took a mild hit hurricane, but a 1, Category 1. This one was a 2. There were tree branches, you name it, everywhere, roofing tiles, few power lines. I didn't see too much of that kind of thing, but a few. And I looked around, and suddenly this resort dropped what seemed to be 100 people, 100 Mexicans with chainsaws and gardening, big rakes and shovels and hammers and nails and roofing tile. And honestly, within two hours, probably, I looked outside at 1 o'clock, and by 3 o'clock, 3:30 at the latest, you would have never known there was a hurricane that had hit that resort. I mean, it was it was just
that's just amazing, that kind of workmanship.
Yeah,
because the residual effects of hurricanes can last for weeks, sometimes months.
As they know, as they're facing it down in New Orleans, and you all know my aversion to saying the word amazing, but that was amazing. So that
I have an aversion to the word awesome.
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's overused. But I will say, for all of our friends up north who don't have hurricanes, we make a lot about a category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or tropical storm, etc., tropical depression. A tropical storm can be brutal.
Yeah,
and a hurricane 4 can
wipe out
a lot of things. But a hurricane's a hurricane, a storm's a storm. I even saw a tropical depression just linger in the Gulf of Mexico and dump tons of water. In some ways, it was more damaging than a hurricane.
Well, sure. I mean, we've seen power go out on way less than hurricane force winds, and that's just what happens in these kind of disasters. And those of you that also, you've heard it a million times, but as we talk about, everything here is exponential that we like to talk about on the show. A hurricane number is exponential. A 2 isn't just a little bit better than a 1. They say that a category 3, which 3 or 4 that hit New Orleans, is actually 370 times the potential or the danger of a category 1.
So it's exponential.
It's exponential.
Just like the Richter scale for earthquakes.
Yeah. So just because it's a category 4 and 4 is only, you get back to 1 pretty quickly, that doesn't mean what everybody thinks it means. And that's why those folks are done. But in between that hurricane, I did have a little encounter with Ida. Went back up to Maine to finish up the residency and close the season at Sebago Resort up there. And who follows me but Hurricane Henri, which kind of fizzled out. Well, it did.
Not to be confused with Hurricane Henry,
but as they like to call it on the TV, Henri. And the thing about it was that one was a total fizzle. I mean, by the time, I was getting alerts from the airlines, what is I going to go on that day? What was going to happen? Everything was being moved around up at the resort, and basically Portland got overcast skies and nothing different than what I saw leaving a week and a half later. Although I understand some people got, but they didn't get what they got with the tropical storm of Ida, of which hit the night before I left that whole New England area, and obviously killed some folks and took people by surprise, because that area of the country is just not equipped to handle that kind of storm.
It kind of reminds me of something, Al. I was in Florida during September 11th, 2001. And we all remember where we were September 11th, but most of us can't remember where we were on September 10th or the days leading up to it, because it was such a catastrophic change in just about everything. But there was a storm right before.
Yep.
And it was a brutal storm. But it also gave us a sense of perspective, because people were coming to church and they were saying, I lost my pool cage, or I lost my carport, or I damaged my car, my roof collapsed. But compared to what the people are going through up in New York, I consider myself very blessed. And that perspective that we were able to weather a storm, but holy smokes, emotionally, we're still dealing with the fallout for September 11th.
Well, absolutely. Well, and we're dealing
20 years later.
A lot. Yeah, we're getting ready to celebrate and I hate to call it a celebration, because it's
a commemoration.
Yeah, it's a commemoration, a much better word.
And in fact, when Roman Catholics and Lutherans get together, they don't quote unquote celebrate the Reformation, they commemorate it, because at the end of the day, it's tragic that Christians are divided, and we don't want to celebrate division inadvertently. But it was, the thing that I think is important also, and what we're doing here at New Life Lutheran Church, and please tune in on Sunday morning, we are going to commemorate September 11th, and we are also going to honor anybody who is a first responder. We put out invitations to our community for firemen and policemen and people who drive ambulance and EMTs and all of the folks who drive into tragedies, just the way Al flies into hurricanes, but they drive into burning buildings while other people are getting out of those buildings. We saw what heroism was on September 11th. I mean, it was a nightmare none of us want to repeat, but God did use that opportunity, I believe, to point to the fact the unsung heroes are those who are willing to risk their lives to save others. And greater love have no man than this, than to lay down his life for a brother. Where have we heard that before?
Right.
Well, guess what? You're going to hear it on Sunday too.
Well, I look forward to being in church to see that. I invite any of you that are within our viewership area to come in live. But if you, well, everybody's in our viewership area. Anybody that's in our area that can drive in or be here, please come in for 10 a.m. But if not, please make sure that you catch us on our streaming services. So that,
and at the very least, when you see a police officer, a fireman, or an EMT, somebody who puts their life on the line to keep ours safe, say thank you. Wish them well. Pray for them. Let them know that they're loved. They don't get a lot of that, and I think September 11th is a great time for us to remind everybody to do that.
well, for as much grief as I give and do in my comedy show about the TSA, the one thing that we can say is that since the TSA has been brought into our purvey,
yes,
there has been no airline, no air incidents that would have done that. Now, leave it to a COVID virus to begin WWE on airlines with some of our passengers, but that has nothing to do with anybody trying to blow up or hijack the plane. And I just think
I forgot they're kind of unsung heroes too. Before 9/11, there was not to the extent that we have it now. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so good job, TSA.
Thank you,
my flight attendant people. You hang in there as well. As I was back to almost my old schedule as a comedian with about 8 and 6 flights within a 3-week period, and got to go back on and see a lot of the changes and the things that they're having to fight through with the mask issues, as well as unruly passengers. And I know this sounds awfully cruel, but I think they shouldn't be taking self-defense courses. Flight attendants, they should be taking duct tape techniques, because it seems to me like duct taping somebody in their seat is probably
sad
but true. I mean, listen, that solves the problem. You know, you get unruly, we duct tape you to your seat. I think that's a pretty
well. And let's face it, flying is dangerous. We take it for granted. And it's probably the safest way to travel, but you still have thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds dangling up 30,000 feet above sea level. It's all by itself is a danger.
Well, it is, but obviously it becomes a business. And when, as my one flight attendant I talked to, got to kind of chit chat with a little bit on the flight from Portland to Charlotte, said, I put in my 36 years as a flight attendant, and he's getting ready to retire. He said we've come a long way from rolling down the aisle with a carved piece of rib roast for everybody, and all the amenities of flying into just one big herd of cattle coming through now, all in masks, and everybody hoping that nobody's getting viruses and all that type of thing. And these beautiful airports, I will say one thing: the Charlotte, North Carolina airport is absolutely gorgeous. And to believe that we are having issues with supply chains and employees, this airport was jammed over the Labor Day weekend when I was traveling, and none of the shops or restaurants were open.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I mean, it just because supply chains have been disrupted, and things are just the same way with the rental car. It isn't the rental car prices are off the charts because, of course, the rental car companies want to maximize their profits, but there's a supply chain chip, the computer chips.
Sure.
They can't get those. They've had to shut down GM, the assembly line at GM, for making new cars. And if you look at the car prices right now, it's just one domino leading to another that we hope we can kind of correct. And
well, 10 years from now, we'll all be living like the Jetsons. Now we'll be able to look at this and people say, "What's an airport? What's an airplane?"
Think about this.
What's TSA?
There's a city in California that has taken a vote, and they are not approving any gas-powered gas stations to be built in their city, their county. So obviously in the state of California always leads in this type of thing, but they're 10%, which I think is a pretty significant number. 10% of all vehicles in California now are electric. And this city council said no to any petroleum-based gas stations. So I think at some point we'll just be using charging stations where I'll fill up my old truck or my old car.
My portable helicopter, because we'll all be flying helicopters.
There you go,
airplanes.
Something like that.
Well, the other thing too, Al, is yesterday was Rosh Hashanah. Yeah. This is a week of Jewish New Year, and blessings to our friends in the Jewish faith. It's important for us to know that that's a very significant part of who we are, considering half of our Bible, or actually 2/3 of our Bible, is the same Bible as our friends in the Jewish faith observe. But the one thing that's real simple about Rosh Hashanah, so simple yet we're not getting it, is it really started out as a harvest holiday. And for those of us who lived in places where there were farms, a harvest was a great big deal. In fact, there are some people in the state of North Dakota, where I was a pastor for 2 years, they actually paid the church once. They went to the grain elevator, they weighed their grain, they took 10% of the money from their grain elevator. This is biblical. Literally the first fruits giving, 10% from their annual wage, came directly to the church. And when harvest came, everybody knew about it. Now that I've raised my kids in the burbs and we live in these nice places, every once in a while we have to say to our kids, vegetables don't grow on the shelves in Publix. Cows exist. Milk doesn't just come in a bottle. There are people who produce the food for us, and harvest is a time that, unfortunately, we really should commemorate. It really should be. If our friends in the Jewish faith are celebrating the harvest on Jewish New Year, at least that's how it originated, and same with Passover. That's really not asking too much to celebrate the bounty of God's providence.
So is Rosh Hashanah always on the, I thought it was yesterday, is it always on the 8th of September?
No, a different calendar that goes by the moon. So when you have a lunar calendar, and in Judaism, it's kind of a little bit of both. It's sort of lunar and solar, solely lunar. We're pretty much strictly solar. So it's funny when there's an old story of a little Jewish kid asking his rabbi. He said, "Rabbi, what day is Hanukkah this year?" And he said, "Same day as always, Kislev 25." So Kislev 25 could be Thanksgiving, or Kislev 25 could be Christmas. It all depends on where the moon's going, or how the lunar cycles go, and it's fascinating in and of itself. It really is. It's absolutely amazing to me.
So are there Jewish calendars that are printed like our traditional calendars with?
Yeah. Yep.
Do they celebrate months, or are they just numbers, or what?
Months are usually about 28 days long, as opposed to our months that are 31. Sometimes they'll have an extra month. They'll have like a leap month instead of a leap day. And that's just to bring the calendar back to pretty much where we the Muslim, they also have a lunar calendar that's pretty much strictly lunar. So their months change every year. So if you celebrate Ramadan, you could be celebrating in the summer, or you could be celebrating it in the winter, where you have to fast from sundown to sunrise to sundown, which is not horrible in the winter. Especially if you live near the Arctic Circle, but deadly in the summer, where sunrise is early and sunset is late. So, but we pretty much have that steady 12-month, 365. I guess the sun or Earth travels around the world elliptically 365.25 hours. So yeah, we're pretty much steady Eddie. We know exactly what it's going to be like in September, and it's not terrific, at least in Florida.
Interesting. Well, and it's funny that you should say that, because once again, I had that experience coming back from Maine, where beginnings of it was September 3rd or 4th that I actually traveled, and the beginnings of the fall type weather was up, the mornings were in the mid 50s, and the humidity was about 40%, and it was just
gorgeous.
Yeah, for my taste, it was perfect. And then I suddenly, even in the air conditioned hallways of the Charlotte, North Carolina airport, began a major sweat box, and then of course came all the way down to Florida, and then it goes without saying what we have to deal with down here.
Yeah, I people will ask me, do you miss the winters? What do you miss up north? And honestly, I miss fall. I miss autumn, because as hot as it may be, September's the last hurrah in Florida. The sweltering heat cranks itself up. Humidity is extremely high. We say it's the price you pay for living in paradise. It's that much more beautiful in New England, it's that much more beautiful in the Midwest. And when the leaves start changing, it's actually kind of magical. It really is. I'm not going to use the word magic. I'm going to say miracle, because God has his fingerprints all over it.
Okay, so we begin that journey that you talk about with the Jewish New Year, this celebration thereof, and then, as I said before we went on air, the running joke is it's the 4th of July, because the Halloween decoration sales are already up at Walgreens and CVS. We do know we're getting into those.
Some people are seeing Christmas stuff.
Well, and
that's not real common, but somebody mentioned some Christmas stuff.
I guarantee you that at CVS, my regular CVS, there will be an aisle, or at least a half an aisle, dedicated to the beginnings of Christmas things. I'm guessing by the middle to the end of next week. But I mean, that's just, I don't understand it. I don't get it, but that's what we do. And every year does it. I mean, those of you that are coffee drinkers and Starbucks freaks.
Yes.
Well, I mean, how are you getting your pumpkin spice in August? That made no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, my daughter insisted on her pumpkin spice.
I don't understand. I mean, well, why not?
100%.
Put it in all year long. I mean,
Sure.
The
Pumpkin spice isn't necessarily the same as pumpkin. I mean, I know pumpkins are pumpkins, but spices,
Well, I know. Let's move forward in that we are coming up on some holidays when I talk about Halloween and also the commemoration of
There's the commemoration of the Reformation.
Right.
Reformation Sunday.
Right. Those are our two next big. So what is that? Why don't you give us some? Everybody kind of lays those in together if they have church history, and also some churches are very anti-Halloween.
And I can get where people are coming from on that. I honestly can. I never wanted to ever play it up too much, but at the same time, it's the cultural reality. Most of the time, it's pretty benign. Of little kid dressing up like a circus clown, well, that's actually scarier than a vampire. I was going to say,
I'll go ahead.
Or dressing up like a Power Ranger or Mickey Mouse. Or I'm dating myself horribly.
Yes, you are.
But I'll tell you, getting candy door to door, and that's fine, But of course, Halloween, the holiday that's between the I'm getting real fancy here, between the fall equinox and the winter solstice, that little period of time that the pagans refer to as Samhain or Samhain, was a time when the veil between life and death was at its thinnest. And that was the belief that people had pre-Christian, people had before Christianity came along. The church comes along very cleverly and says, you know what? If you think the souls are coming from the graves, let's make it All Saints Day. Well, this will be a great day for us to celebrate All Saints Day. We used to celebrate it in a different time of the year. Well, people would put little pumpkins outside of the graves to commemorate their loved ones coming back. Of course, that's nonsense and in superstition that we don't believe. But I think if you're given some lemons and you decide to make lemonade, that's fine. And so All Saints Day came along, and the day before All Saints Day, All Saints Eve, is October 31st. All Saints Day is November 1st. And that's when Martin Luther put the 95 Theses. He actually delivered it to the Castle Church. The legend is that he hammered it on the wall, or he hammered it on the door. And that's why Reformation is so close to Halloween and All Saints Day. And in the Lutheran Church, we commemorate Reformation as the last Sunday in October, and All Saints Day is the first Sunday in November. So together, those are important days. They're important days because we remember the foundation of our church, our expression, but also we remember those who have gone before us, the people we love. It's like another Memorial Day of sorts, except it's for all people, all saints. So
interesting.
Sorry about that, Al.
No, I'm just trying to process how that all comes together in terms of what we should be. I still wondering what would your advice to our listeners be about the celebration of Halloween, because there's so many of our more fundamental friends talks that this is the devil's holiday, and you don't do you're on the devil, et cetera, et cetera.
And I got to respect them for that stance. We just like, I hope and pray people will respect me for what I'm saying. I honestly think the important thing to keep in mind is that if you're celebrating just the opportunity of getting some candy and enjoying some fun and laughter and bobbing for apples or doing whatever you do to celebrate a day, you're really not, you're not taking out the Ouija board and having seances and things of that nature, which is truly something you don't want to do. If you celebrate Halloween with costumes, preferably nice ones instead of not so nice ones, I don't see any damage there. But you get out the Ouija board, now we're talking about something completely different. So is there kind of a gray area there? Probably. Yeah, there is. But I would say the most important thing to realize is the sweet little kid's going to come knocking on your door, and he's going to be with his mom and dad, and they love him very, very much, and they love her very, very much. And we want it to be a safe time for those little guys and for their parents and for all people. And so it's going to happen, and you may as well give them a nice piece of candy. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, somewhere in there lies an answer. And
it's perfectly ambiguous. I'm going to leave it as ambiguous as can be. In other words, when somebody comes knocking in your door, give them a piece of candy, and all's well with the world. What do you do from henceforth? We'll wrestle with the ambiguity. Maybe we'll solve it next week.
Well, maybe we will. And until then, reminder, please, if you can't be here, watch the.
We do have a prayer. I almost forgot. I didn't start with the prayer. Can we close? But then I'll pray, and then we will give our announcement of when to tune in, because that's important. Gracious and Heavenly Father, seasons come and seasons go. We experience change. We see seasons come and go, even in the form of national tragedies like September 11th. But we also see a new season come in the wake of that, which is a season to thank those who have served and continue to serve and continue to make us safe. We ask your blessings upon our police officers and our firemen, our EMTs, and all of the first responders who risk their lives every day to keep us safe. And we ask your blessings upon the time of change that we're experiencing in our church as we move closer to Reformation and All Saints Day. We also remember the harvest. We remember the bounty of your giving, and we thank you for that. And we ask your healing and all who are working, including our nurses and doctors and all who are hospitalized. We pray that you may end to this epidemic, that we may go on with life as we once knew it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And we will see you next week on Uniquely Lutheran.
Thank you.